Who exactly was this saint? Could it be the man who was crucified 1,900 years ago? Johnny and Gyro simply couldn't figure out who it was. Perhaps when they reach Lake Michigan and find the remaining 3 parts of the corpse, the answer will reveal itself. As they were talking, the coffee was ready. Johnny went to pick it up, but his hand was burned by the kettle's handle. He intended to grab a towel to hold it, but the towel that had been on the ground had already split into fragments. At that moment, hoofbeats came from the cornfield behind them. It sounded like more than one horse. A strange noise also came from inside the barn. Someone is hiding behind the door? That's impossible. Gyro had checked the barn just a minute ago. No one could be hiding inside. Johnny grabbed an axe and smashed the wooden door to pieces with one swing. As expected, the room was completely empty. Gyro felt this place was no longer safe. There was no reason to stay. It was time to leave. But Johnny saw something terrifying. Just as Gyro was about to touch the ladder, Johnny shouted for him not to touch it, because the axe he had just used to chop the door had already split into fragments. Johnny picked up the axe handle and threw it toward the ladder. Sure enough, the instant it touched the ladder, the handle was sliced into several pieces. If Johnny had spoken 1 second later, Gyro would have died. From this, it was clear that Johnny's towel had also been cut apart by the enemy. This cabin, this ladder, and the surrounding objects had likely already become the enemy's weapons. The hoofbeats in the cornfield were getting closer. Johnny and Gyro immediately took battle stances. Since the enemy was about to reveal himself, they would first see who it was, then decide whether to flee or fight. But before the enemy appeared, the barn behind them suddenly began to collapse. The supporting wooden beams split cleanly down the middle, as if they had been cut by a sharp blade. As the planks were about to crash down, the two of them quickly leapt back. Johnny's legs were impaired. His foot was only lightly brushed by a piece of shattered wood, yet his flesh split open and blood poured onto the ground. Only then did Johnny realize that this entire wooden house was the enemy's trap. At the same time, the dark figure in the cornfield finally charged out on horseback. It was Dadhan, the contestant from Mongolia. Behind him followed a group of small creatures that looked like dinosaurs. The dense hoofbeats from earlier had all been made by those small creatures. The enemy drew closer and closer. The broken wooden house collapsed, crashing down toward Johnny. Gyro decisively took out a steel ball and threw it at the enemy. The spinning steel ball hit the enemy's neck dead on, but in the next moment, the steel ball actually split into fragments, and Dadhan screamed, "Help! Help, go to hell." Johnny acted decisively as well. He fired his nail bullets straight at the enemy's vital points. But the moment the nails touched the enemy's body, they also shattered. Even more unexpectedly, Dadhan's body, along with his mount, began to explode. Johnny finally realized that Dadhan was not the enemy. He was merely a tool being used by the enemy. The wooden house was about to fall. Johnny hurriedly fired nail bullets to hold it off. Gyro threw another steel ball to help, but as soon as it touched the wooden planks, shattered too. He had lost all his weapons, and the planks kept pressing down. Gyro urgently called out to Johnny, telling him to dig a hole in the ground with the nail bullets to prevent his body from touching the planks. But in just a few seconds, there was no way to dig a hole big enough to hold a person. Gyro tried to pull Johnny out, but the moment he reached his hand, a wooden plank blocked them. It seemed Johnny was doomed today. He closed his eyes, quietly waiting for death to arrive. Dadhan's shattered body also crashed onto the ruins of the wooden house. The guy, horse and all, was cut into pieces. By now, the planks had completely collapsed, burying Johnny entirely. The small creatures that looked like dinosaurs charged toward Gyro. Gyro ran straight for his mount. This dinosaur-like ability was definitely Dio's doing, but Dio probably only had this one ability. There must have been someone else ambushing them. Gyro leapt onto the saddle, shouting at the same time, "Time to get out of here, Johnny." And beneath the pile of wood, there was movement. Could it be that Johnny wasn't dead yet? That's right. Johnny had miraculously survived. Although Gyro's final steel ball had been sliced into fragments by that ability, even after being cut apart, the steel ball's spin did not stop. At the instant, the wooden house collapsed. Those spinning steel ball fragments dug a hiding hole for Johnny, a hole large enough to fit his body. The enemy was getting closer and closer. There was no time to fetch the horses. Johnny grabbed Gyro's horse directly. The two of them rode one horse and fled, and this made Johnny recall his unbearable past. Before he debuted as a horse-riding star, Johnny's full name was Jonathan Joestar. He was born into the noble Joestar family in Kentucky, United States. The Joestar family was wealthy. Johnny's father owned a ranch and was also an excellent horse trainer. The horses trained by his father had once achieved an impressive record of 7 consecutive championships. Because of his father's work, Johnny spent many years in England during his youth. That evening at dinner, Johnny was eating meat with one hand while reaching into his trousers with the other. His father's face darkened hand immediately. Jonathan, get your hand out of there. Manners show respect for others. What kind of behavior is that? Do you want people here to laugh at us for being country bumpkins? Little Johnny panicked. He stuffed something into his pocket before placing his hand back on the table. His father became even more serious. What did you just put away? Take it out. Johnny did not dare to disobey. Trembling, he took a small white mouse out of his pocket. His father flew into a rage. That's the end of your dinner. Go back to your room immediately. And before that, throw that thing in your hand into the pond. Johnny refused to move because his father had promised him that he could keep the little creature. His father slammed the table and shouted angrily, "Don't change the subject. You were the one who broke the promise to keep it in a cage. Deal with it yourself right now." Johnny did not dare to resist. Crying loudly, he ran out of the house. He came to the pond. Johnny could not bring himself to act. His brother Nicholas followed behind him and began to comfort him. "If you can't bear to kill the little mouse named Danny, then just set it free. If father asks where the body is, I'll borrow a white mouse specimen from school and use it to fool him." I doubt Dad would actually check the mouse himself. Johnny finally stopped crying. He happily threw himself into his brother's arms, but he did not know that such a small incident would end up killing the person closest to him and send his life down a completely different path. Johnny's real name was actually Jonathan Joestar, the same person in a parallel world. Why was his personality so drastically different? All of this started with his older brother, Nicholas Joestar. Johnny's brother was a once-in-a-generation equestrian prodigy. As a world-class horse trainer, his father placed enormous expectations on him and gave him the very best resources. Standing in the shadow of such a dazzling brother, Johnny even wondered if he had been adopted. But his brother always encouraged him, telling him, "You're just still young. When you grow up, the two of us brothers will fight side by side." During that time, their father also took in a boy named Diego Brando and kept him by his side to learn horse training as well. Before one race, during training, his brother mounted the black stallion their father had most recently trained. At such a young age, he could already control such a powerful horse. His future seemed limitless, but while running, he suddenly fell from the horse. Everyone at the scene rushed over. After struggling for a long time, they still couldn't save his life. Why did he fall? According to a witness, a white mouse suddenly ran in front of the horse. The horse was startled, and that was why it threw Nicholas off. Johnny's heart trembled. A white mouse? Could it have been the white mouse he released the night before? His actions had directly led to the death of the brother he loved most. Many years later, Johnny had grown up and became a rising superstar in the equestrian world. On the day of an upcoming race, he discovered his riding boots were broken. There was no time to repair them or buy a new pair. So he went into his brother's room to borrow the boots he used to wear while he was alive. When Johnny stepped into his brother's room, his father followed right behind him and ordered him to put the boots back where they belonged. Johnny, of course, refused to budge. The race was about to start. There was no time to fix his own boots. His feet were the exact same size as Nicholas's. What was so wrong with borrowing them for one race? His father's face darkened. "If your boots are broken, it's because you failed to maintain them. That's your own responsibility." Johnny countered, "That may be true, but the race is starting. I have to win the championship." The championship? His father's expression grew even more severe. Only one who defeats the best can be called a champion. Dio didn't even enter. What's the point of winning a race like this? If it were Nicholas, he would have defeated Dio long ago. You have no right to touch Nicholas's things. After saying that, his father moved to snatch the boots. Johnny refused to let go no matter what. His brother had been dead for 7 years, yet their father talked about his achievements every single day and had never once truly looked at him. And these boots were just a tool. No matter what happened today, he was going to walk out wearing them. Neither father nor son would let go. In a moment of anger, Johnny struck his father with his elbow. His father fell and hit the mirror. His neck was cut by the broken glass. Lying on the ground, his father wept and said, "God, you took the wrong son." Those words were like a bolt from the blue, shattering Johnny's remaining pride. He doubted his own ears and asked with a tremble what his father had just said. Clutching his neck, his father roared, "You beast, get out of this house." Just like that, Johnny, with tears in his eyes, put down his brother's boots and completely severed his relationship with his father. Relying on his extraordinary talent, Johnny won prize after prize in major equestrian competitions. Beautiful women surrounded him. For a time, he was unmatched in fame, but the white mouse he had released, the one that led to his brother's death, kept appearing in his mind. It became his trauma. He even began to believe that the one who deserved to die was himself, not his brother. The debt he owed would one day be reclaimed by fate. Money and women only brought him fleeting pleasure. Before long, in that shooting incident, he became paralyzed from the waist down. From that moment on, he was finally abandoned by the entire world. Not a single person came to visit him until Gyro Zeppeli appeared. Only then did hope return to his world. The current desperate situation was just like the way he had once been surrounded by fate. Johnny knew all too well that Gyro had lost his weapon. With nothing but his spinning nails to rely on, he had no way to break through the encirclement. Where did Gyro Zeppeli's power of the spin truly come from? Johnny clung to Gyro's saddle. He fired while running. The pursuing monsters were shattered one by Johnny. But to Johnny's surprise, the monsters threw the chunks of their fallen comrades at him. Wherever the pieces touched, the flesh split open like it had been sliced by a blade, spraying blood non-stop. In the dense cornfield, the mysterious man, who had never shown himself, continued to follow behind the two of them. Johnny deduced that the dinosaurs created by Dio were merely tools lent to that man. The ability to slice objects came from the mysterious man's stand. Its attack range was likely within several dozen meters. Gyro's artery had been cut. They had to find Hot Pants immediately and have her use her stand ability to heal Gyro's wound. Otherwise, the blood loss alone would be enough to take Gyro's life. But Johnny said they no longer had that chance because the number of monsters had increased again, and now there are fucking pterosaurs. Ahead of them was the Mississippi River. The two of them had nowhere left to run. Johnny was still worrying when Gyro suddenly shouted, "Jump off the horses. The horses will swim across on their own. Right now, we must protect the horses. Don't let them get hurt." As soon as he said that, Gyro leapt off his horse and threw himself toward the riverbank. Johnny followed closely behind and rolled down into the mud. The monsters arrived shortly after and launched their attack, but both of them were covered in mud. Since the enemy's ability required direct contact to activate, the two of them had effectively countered it. Before they could even celebrate, Johnny suddenly felt a sharp pain in his tongue. As the flying creatures approached, his mouth actually caught fire. Gyro reached out instinctively, but his fingers ignited as well. Wasn't the enemy's ability supposed to be slicing? Why was there fire now? In the middle of speaking, Johnny's eyes began to burn too. The mysterious man peeked out again, hiding in the cornfield and watching them. It seemed the enemy had already calculated their escape route. Those flying creatures had been waiting for this very moment. His ability was not that simple. Like sound, he used sound to drive them into a dead end. It's over. It's completely over. Gyro immediately snapped in anger. "What the fuck are you babbling about? What do you mean it's over? What do you mean I have no steel balls left? What do you mean your nails don't work anymore? You're seriously underestimating the 250 years of spin passed down through the Zeppeli family. The tricks you know barely count as beginner level." At that moment, Gyro's expression suddenly turned serious. "Show respect, Johnny. Show respect. Then step into a new stage of the spin. Lesson 4. I'll teach you this technique right now." Johnny froze. A new stage? As they spoke, the fire-breathing pterosaurs had already surrounded them. At the same time, their horses successfully entered the water and swam toward the opposite bank. The horses were safe. Now they had no more worries. Gyro immediately said sternly, "From this moment on, the phrase, 'I can't do it,' I'll only allow you to say it 4 times. When I was very young, my father demanded the same of me." Johnny did not understand. Gyro continued, "The ultimate secret of the steel ball is infinity. To pursue infinity has always been the ultimate goal of the Zeppeli family. My ancestors attempted to apply the concept of infinity to the steel ball so it could serve medicine and execution." As he said this, Gyro picked up half of a tree branch and drew a rectangle on the ground. The ratio was approximately 16:9. This is the golden rectangle. The secret of the infinite spin lies within it.